start. Enjoy the show.
Welcome in, everyone, to Betting Weekly Live. It is Wednesday, the 17th of September. I've managed to start the show without being muted today, thankfully. You're with Steve Wyss, and I'm joined by Will White. Great to see you back on Betting Weekly Live, Will. How's things been going with you in the last few weeks?
Good day to you, Steve, and good day to everyone out there. Been doing well, thanks. Had a good night last night on Champions League, and looking forward to covering today's games. Just glad it's back. Don't feel like football season doesn't really get going until after the first international break. So now we're back with Champions League. We're in the season's in full flow. I hear you guys had a good show last night as well. Started off with some good winners.
You know, it was one of those sort of nights where we didn't get everything right, but there was some very good winners. You know, shout out to Nigel for the Mbappe brace. He had some great calls, the Arsenal match as well. That was a good game for us both in general. My best bet did half lose with the Real Madrid over 3.25, but you know that's why you play that goal line. Sometimes you're not gonna, if you can't win the bet, then at least don't lose it all. If you know what I mean, Will. But yeah, you know it was ups and downs. I think there was one of Nigel's ladders didn't make it beyond the first rung, but that can happen if we're doing laddering. Is your ladder going to come out today anywhere? It seems to be the new trend on Betting Weekly Live.
It does seem to be a trend. It's not a trend I've gotten into myself yet. There may be one play that I'd advocate the ladder on, but I think you're on board with that one too. But should we start off with a bit of a discussion about the outright, shall we?
We certainly will. But before that, Dan Robert, will there be any draws tonight? Asking for a friend. Dan, I think, is down the draw rabbit hole again. Although there was the one draw yesterday, of course, was the incredible 4-4 match with Juventus. And you're talking about outright. I saw your comment on the chat yesterday about Juventus. If they win the Champions League, you would shave your head and wear a Real Madrid shirt live on air. So 40-1. Their price hasn't actually changed from yesterday. A lot of people were saying they're a decent outside bet. Yeah, they might even be the best team in Italy, Will. I don't know whether they are. I presume they're not in your ratings, but what's the hate about Juve before we start things off?
I think, Steve, yeah, I mean, it may have been a bold proposition, my potential sacrifice of Juve to win the Champions League. But at the end of the day, they have an implied 2% chance. So I'm hoping that I don't have to go that far. But in terms of my ratings, I've still got Napoli and Inter quite clear of Juve. And actually, I think I might even have AC Milan as the third best team in Italy. But it's early days. It's early in the season, and as was mentioned yesterday, Vlahovic seems to be kind of having a bit of a renaissance, and he didn't end up leaving in the window, and maybe he'll turn back into his old self. And I don't know. For me, Juve are not the one. They're kind of lacking a bit in midfield, I think, but you never know. It's probably the most wide open Champions League outright we've had in quite a long time.
Are there any teams that are overpriced? Do you think if we look at the outright market again here, the favourites now, joint favourites, Arsenal, Barcelona, Liverpool, plus 600, PSG at plus 700. You know, is it a simple case of one of the favourites, say at 12-1 or shorter, that actually should be significantly less odds? And is there anyone at a big price that could give someone a run for their money?
In terms of the favourites, I think perhaps the most interesting price to talk about is PSG, because they were clearly the best team in Europe last season. And they've drifted a lot, predominantly based off the draw. And I don't know, I think that's been overblown myself. I think their draw is difficult, yes, but I still would certainly expect them to finish in the top 16 and probably still in the top 8. So, and we've got to remember they didn't finish in the top 8 last season. And actually that kind of tune-up they had in the knockout round ended up benefiting them. They've got the luxury of being able to rotate right in Liga and domestically. So I still think that PSG price is pretty attractive, actually, at plus 700. I'm not sure if it's a bet, but the market's just so tightly packed, and it's really, I know you guys Nigel, I think, used the phrase cigarette paper between the ratings of the top 5 or 6 contenders, and I totally agree with that. If I look at my ratings, got PSG, Arsenal, Liverpool, Barcelona, all pretty much aligned. And then just behind that, you've got Bayern, Real Madrid, City. So I don't think there's much value currently. If we're talking about value in those top runners, I'd be looking at PSG. Outside of that, the two that I kind of was most interested in, they've shortened up, both of them actually, Inter and Newcastle. Inter I was more interested in at plus 3,300, plus 4,000. Obviously, they've had a big downgrade in manager. I think losing Inzaghi and replacing him with Chivu, I'm not so sure myself. But I still have them rated higher than the likes of Juve and other teams of a similar price. And then Newcastle, they've lost Isak, which is obviously big, but I think they've replaced him well. Voltemada and Wyss are both high-quality players, and I think, yes, they're not Isak, yes, but Voltemada especially has the potential. It's a big price, but again, it's hard to see outside of the top, say, 6-7 runners in the market.
Yeah, more talk about Inter later when we discuss their game against Ajax. I'm really intrigued what sort of position you've got them at the moment and your rankings and stuff like that. Just going through some of the comments here. There was one that made me laugh. Adam Thompson setting the Will White shots on target overs line at 4.5 on the bets. And Real Brandon King said it's good to have you back, Will, and we will try and get some Barcelona thoughts maybe later on when we've covered all the matches. That is the huge game tomorrow, actually. Newcastle against Barcelona to start things off at St. James's Park. Loads of comments already. Welcoming everyone. It's going to be hard for me to get through most of them actually today, but don't you worry, I am reading them, all of them actually, while doing the show. Chris Graham says, are we on the Pafos train? What's the news from Dan, the Pafos Perlo Roebuck? That's where we're going to start, today, actually, in Greece. Olympiakos against Pafos. I think it's one of the hardest games of the day, actually, in terms of betting on. Someone described it in the comments as the plate-smashing derby. They might not be far wrong. Olympiakos at minus 245, the Greek champions against the Cypriot champions, of course, plus 650 Pafos, who've done really well to get here, making their debut in the competition. The tie is at plus 270. When I was looking at the Asian handicaps earlier, and it was minus 1.25 on Olympiakos, and I wasn't sure whether this was a fair odds line or not, because it's one of those, I think Olympiakos are more easier to rank. I think the more of a case is how good are Pafos at this level, Will?
This is a tough game. I really wanted to be with Pafos. We're 4 from 4 on them in the show this season alone. We were on them every leg, both legs against Red Star and both legs against Kiev. Interestingly, what happened in both of those away matches for Pafos, Red Star and Kiev both got backed in. And Red Star got backed in as far as the 1.25 line, which we're looking at in this game. And I have Olympiakos quite a bit better than Red Star and Kiev. So I was kind of disappointed that we didn't see 1.5 here. I definitely would have been on that. Probably would still lean the 1.25, but it's not a bet for me. And it's disappointing. I wanted to keep riding the train, but the price is the price, and it's just not good enough for me.
Same here. I don't want to get involved in this game. Do you know what? Neither outcome would surprise me. If Olympiakos racked a comfortable win, say 3-0, I'm not going to bat an eyelid. But if they didn't even win the game, I wouldn't be shocked. It's a tricky one. Pafos have got a lot of momentum about them. Both teams started the season pretty well domestically. 89% of the money's on Olympiakos. 96% of the tickets are on them. 75% of the over-under money's on the over. But again, I think it's a really difficult goal line. Have you got any props for this game at all, Will?
No props either.
No,
I'm actually that 4.5 line on the shots on target bet. Someone's going to be disappointed because, I haven't really seen that many today in the props.
There's a few, right. Dave Clark says both teams to score on over 2.5 goals. Brian M is waiting for the lineups for Pafos have been getting scored on from the left wing. Interesting one. So he's going to see who starts there for Olympiakos. Mike Oxmal, good to see you in the chat. Olympiakos under 4.5 and Liverpool match under 4.5 goals. That's his combo for the day. What is the Dan Roebuck prediction here? He thinks they can get a result, Pafos. So Dan has usually been a pretty good judge of Pafos. Wouldn't surprise me if they did get a result either. But it's a tough game. to start things off with. The other early match, I think we've got a lot more interest in from a betting perspective. Slavia Prague against Bodo Glimt. Again, another team here, Bodo Glimt making their Champions League debut. Must have been a while since Slavia Prague have been at this level as well. I'm not sure how many years. Champions of Czechia against the champions of Norway. And there's a team leak actually come from Bodo Glimt for the lineup today. And the most important news is that the top scorer, Kasper Ho, is expected to start, which that was a bit of a surprise to me because he was a major, major doubt there. Plus 185 to score at any time. He's been a huge weapon for them. I heard a week or two ago that he was going to miss this match and be back for round number 2, but he's going to be in the side. However, key left back Fredrik Andre Bjørkan is not expected to start the game, and the captain Ulrik Saltnes is ill. But big news there about Kasper Ho, which is a huge boost for Bodo Glimt, and I'm starting to think they might get a result here. There's another angle I love even more, but initially last week I was thinking Slavia Prague win this match, but I'm actually giving Bodo more of a chance now.
Yeah, big drift on Slavia here, actually. They've gone from the minus 130s to minus 110. Maybe that's based off her starting, but I'm starting to think that Slavia are actually being a bit underrated here. Both of these teams, of course, were in the Europa League last season. Both had contrasting competitions, let's say. Bodo obviously had their amazing run to the semis, and Slavia were winless actually after match day 1, although they did face tough competition, the likes of Ajax, Athletic Club, Frankfurt, Fenerbahce. That's a tough run, and I still think Slavia are being underestimated here, especially with the missing starters that you mentioned from Bodo. I'd be more keen on Slavia, obviously, if Ho wasn't starting here. But I trust you that he will be. And so I think I'm leaning Slavia on the minus a half or on the win, draw, win. But also I really like overs here. I'm very surprised to see that we can get a decent price on the over 2.5, minus 136 last time I looked. Bodo last season, so 13 of their last 16 have gone over 2.5. And the 3 that didn't all had 2 goals. So, it's surprising. I'm sure you'll agree it's surprising to see a 2.5 line on a Bodo game. I'm not sure Slavia are going to be quite as open and front-footed as Bodo are, but this bet's also backed up by the fact that 91 of the 144 group stage games last season went over 2.5. That's 63%. With an average of 3.26 goals per game. So the market definitely thinks this is going to be lower scoring than the average kind of group stage game. And I'm not sure I agree with that. So, yeah, I'll be on over 2.5 at minus 136.
Yeah, I think it's got to be my best bet of the day, actually, over 2.5 goals here. It's at minus 143 now, but I'm really surprised that we can actually get a backable over 2.5 goal line. For those who want a price closer to even than over 2.75 on the Asian lines at minus 114. It's not the sort of game I'm looking at bringing that ladder out because I don't think it will go crazy over. But I think it goes, you're looking at the sort of game that's probably got between 3 to 5 goals in it. Because, if you look at Bodo Glimt's away results in Europe last season, I think the last 7 have all been both teams to score yes. And 6 of them gone over 2.5 goals. One of those was Lazio after extra time, though, so count that how you want to. Away from home, Bodo Glimt only won 4 of their last 16 European games. They're nowhere near as good away from home as they are at home. 2 of those 4 wins were in qualifying as well. That said, they normally give a good account of themselves away from home. It's like the Man United result last year. They lost it, but they played well. They even led, I think, early doors in that game. So they usually score. They usually give the opposition something to think about. And I'm not sure Slavia Prague I don't think they ever were a banker to win this game, but I was a lot more positive about Slavia Prague's chances this time last week. Let's just say that. Glimt played very, very well on Friday, far better than I expected with a second team, not a second team, but they rested and rotated the squad. They had injuries. It just shows you how well they're coached, really. And, this is a decent, the weakness is the defence here. Ali Simi's set to start at left back. He's a 33, 34-year-old, and one of his big problems, he does get caught out of position. So whoever's playing on that right-hand side of Slavia Prague, I think could be in for a pretty good day today. actually. So that could be an angle people looking at. Have you got any props that you were looking at in this game at all, Will?
No, not in this game. I mean, I didn't know that Ho was projected to start. Last thing I saw was that he was, he's in the squad, but questionable. And normally, when you've got somebody that's in the squad questionable, normally they're not going to start. They'll come off the bench. So you probably from the Bodo side, you want to be focused around him. And then the problem with Slavia is it could be Chori or it could be Chittel starting. And then, they tend to share their attacking output around the team quite a bit. And if you don't know who's going to be starting up front, it makes it difficult from the prop side. But they've got a lot of quality. Slavia have, especially in the midfield. There's Alferis and Oscar Dorley. They do have some very, very good players. And personally, I think home advantage is big here, and so I'm leaning a Slavia win.
Yeah, I think if push came to shove, I would say Slavia Prague win. They are a much better side than people give them credit for. That Europa League run last season, I thought they had some really, really tough fixtures as well. They weren't able to give the best account of themselves. So I think it'd be a good game. Both will fancy chances of winning the match. They're away from home, Bodo Glimt, but the way it is now, you're given your fixtures. You've got to target these fixtures on the road, even if maybe you wouldn't. If it was a 2-leg tie, they'd be happily coming here and drawing or losing close.
Yeah.
It's one of your best chances to neck $3 million.
Yeah.
And get that's what teams get here. I think $3.5 million for winning a game, which is huge prize money for obviously anyone. Even the big clubs, they need it for the financial fair play and stuff like that. The player I would look at for Bodo Glimt isn't Ho, because I don't think he'll last more than 65 minutes in the game. If he was doubtful heading in, then I'd be shocked if he lasts 90 minutes anyway. But I think the player to watch out for is Jens Petter Hauge for them, cutting in from the left wing. He's plus 250 to score or assist. And he looked $1 million on Friday. He just looked fired up, motivated. The sort of player that will sort of raise his level when other players are ruled out. So watch out for him. He has a good record in Europe, actually. He likes to shine on the big stage. Jens Petter Hauge, I've mentioned him before. To score or assist would be a lean for me at plus 250. But best bet of the day for me over 2.5 goals at minus 143. And that's one of your stronger plays of the day as well, isn't it, Will, in that regard? In terms of the percentage of money on the game, just 67% of the money line money is on Slavia Prague and 53% of the tickets. Bodo are a bit of a public sort of darling, aren't they, really? And I think you can get sucked into them a bit because of the story that they've had away from home. That does surprise me, actually, that nearly more than half the tickets are on Bodo Glimt. Just 66, in fact, 66% of the money is on the under for this game so far. That might change before kickoff, though. The lineups will be revealed in about 15-20 minutes, I would say. Hopefully Ho will start. Otherwise, I'm looking a bit like a fool, aren't I? But plenty of talk about other teams in the chat here, Liverpool and Bayern. Don't you worry, we are going to get onto them games very, very soon indeed. But I'm interested in your opinions on Inter Milan, who travel to Ajax. This is the later window now of kickoffs, 3 p.m. Eastern time. Netherlands against Italian clash. Inter minus 143 here. Ajax nearly 4-1 shot with Bet Rivers, and the tie is at plus 285. We often compare teams from the same nation, Will, in Europe, and I have to say it wasn't a very convincing performance from PSV yesterday against Royal Union Saint-Gilloise. If that's the best that the Netherlands can produce, then I think that's concerning when you're facing a team of Inter's might. I've got a feeling you probably rate Inter higher than me, because there's been obviously the manager change been big, and it doesn't seem to be working at the moment.
Yeah, obviously they kind of came out on the wrong side of a 4-3 thriller over the weekend at Juve. The big thing for Inter is they changed manager, right? And Inzaghi is one of the best managers in Europe for sure. Well, not in Europe anymore, but and I'm not sure about Kivu. He's kind of a bit of a left field selection. But at the same time, Ajax have changed manager, right? Johnny Heitinger. And from what I've seen online, Ajax fans don't seem to be happy with him either, particularly with his team selections. I'm not sure how many injuries Ajax have for this, but quite a few of the players they brought in over the summer, the likes of Raul Moro, are either questionable or not really in Heitinger's favour. So be interested to see the Ajax team here, but also interesting to see the Inter team, because under Inzaghi, Inter rotated quite a bit in the Champions League, strangely, but it did end up serving them well. And it'd be interesting to see whether Kivu continues with that ethos. I think Lautaro Martinez is actually questionable here, and he might start from the bench. And if he does, I think we'll see a drift on Inter. I wouldn't be backing them at the current -143, but if we get, say, a -120, wouldn't be shocked to see a -120 something before kickoff. Then I would be looking to get involved, because I think ultimately there is a huge gulf between the quality of these teams, and I want to be with Inter.
Yeah, I want to be with Inter as well. I think Lozatron makes a very good point here. This is exactly my line of thinking. If Inter can't beat Ajax, this Ajax team, I don't think is anything special. Jan Philipp, I think, is a fan, aren't you, of Ajax? And, he's saying Heitinger is awful here. He's going to be there, actually, for the game, Jan Philipp. So, -143 here on Inter just looks... I mean, I've got to be honest. I know you've got to take into account, the last couple of seasons on ratings. It seems to me like they're a team that might be taking a downgrade in the last few months. But at the same time, I might be overreacting, Will. This on paper is still a very, very good squad. There's still a lot of ability in it. And I might be a bit short-sighted here. I mean, let's be honest. They had a good win on the opening day. They've just lost a 4-3 game to Juventus, which I think the XG was like less than 1.5 in the fixture. It was Galazzo after Galazzo. And then, one performance against Udinese at home, which might be a one-off. So Christian Kivu was a very, very predictable coach before he came to Inter, and he was actually very predictable at the Club World Cup. But I don't know whether he's trying something different here because he's got more weapons to work with. Will he go sort of back into not his shell, but his natural way of coaching and think, yes, come here, get a result, defend well, win to 0, and just rely on our, individual quality getting us a couple of goals? I could see Inter winning this to 0, 2-0,
Yeah,
1-0.
I don't think it's necessarily been a big change of DNA at Inter. The squad is pretty much the same. Yes, they brought in the likes of Boni and Akanji at the back to replace Pavard, but still pretty much the same squad. And so I think the DNA is likely to be the same. They're still going to be, a force to be reckoned with. I still think the best team in Italy, although, like you say, they have had a ratings adjustment downwards, predominantly because of the management change. But we'll see. I'm not writing Inter off yet. And actually, I saw someone in the chat with 80-1 Thuram Golden Boot. It's not the worst price in the world. Obviously, it's a big price. And, he's not favourite. He's not one of the favourites. Inter are probably unlikely to reach the final, but you never know. Like, it's a big price on a player that's probably going to start every game.
It seems like the gist for most of the commenters in here is the same, like going to back into here. A bit uncomfortable after the start they've had to the season. Kruku's going first half, Ajax double chance. But do you think Ajax can hold out in the 90 minutes, Kruku? That's the interesting one. I've got Inter down here as my third best bet of the day on the money line, -143. I think they can show their quality and class in this fixture. And in terms of the splits on the game, 88% of the tickets are on Inter Milan, but just 66% of the money. So they're not exactly, the bettors are not exactly going after them massively here, Inter, but we'll get a lot more answers, I think. Just briefly, what is the level of Dutch football these days, Will? I mean, PSV were disappointing there yesterday. Are their sides legitimately poor?
I don't know. I mean, the problem that Dutch teams have is they lose their best players like year in, year out, right? They have to kind of reinvent themselves. And I'm not ready to write off Dutch football. I actually think Union Saint-Gilloise are massively underrated. We've talked about them a lot, particularly on the Europa League shows. I think they're a very good team, and it's more about them playing above the kind of market perceived level than PSV being poor early days as well.
I think PSG have got a poor coach as well. Peter Bosch, for me, he's a great fat track bully, but he's not adaptable enough in the Champions League. Jan reckons Feyenoord might be the best team. I mean, are they in Europa League this year, Feyenoord? I think they must be, presumably, but that's an interesting one. That can change in a country like this, where the best teams are not always in the Champions League year on year. It depends what players have been lost, and of course, there's the new manager at Ajax as well, who's starting to find his feet. Any player props here? I noticed Lautaro Martinez is minus money to score, which is a weird. He's not someone I'm ever in a rush to back unless he's in an incredible hot form. Will.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to start, so I couldn't get involved with Martinez, although you'll get your stake refunded if you do have him in any props. I think Thuram's the main man for Inter here. And then I guess who's going to start with him if Lautaro is on the bench? Maybe Puyo Esposito, who, is an up-and-coming kid at Inter. And I don't think he's listed at the moment on BetRivers, but presumably he will be if he does end up starting. And presumably because he's going under the radar, he's not got the reputation of a Lautaro Martinez. He'll be a much bigger price than Thuram. So, yeah, he's definitely one to look out for in the props. I do think Inter will have the majority of play, and the overline is quite high as well. So you can extrapolate that through to Inter having quite a few shots.
Thuram plus 143 to score any time, incidentally. Those odds might be the wrong way round, or at least should be level based on the potential team news for the fixture. Right, let's move to Anfield. Liverpool versus Atletico Madrid. Liverpool 100% record this season somehow in the Premier League. Don't know how they managed it. They've been nowhere near their best. Actually backed in minus. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong flipping card. The Premier League card up there. They're minus 245 to beat Everton. I thought, what's happened here for a minute? But yeah, Liverpool were the favourites here. Atletico Madrid at plus 525, and Atletico Madrid are one of those sides I never usually like to oppose too much in Europe. And I am looking at the goals in this game, Will. I said to you off air that the goals, it's almost an au contrarian view because Atletico Madrid, reputation under Simeone, come here, try and get a 0-0. I'm not sure he will do that here. And if you look at the way Liverpool defended in week 1 and 2 of the Premier League, I think you can get at them. What are your thoughts on this game, money line and over under?
Yeah, I mean, Liverpool have not been impressive despite the 4-from-4 start. They've made some big signings, and I expect actually Isak might get a start here alongside Florian Wirtz. Yeah,
right, straight off on the bat.
I've heard Isak's going to be starting here, so we'll see. But I think they're missing out on Mark Guehi's probably equally as important as the Isak and Wirtz signings. They do look very vulnerable at the back. The problem I have is, despite Atleti scoring in 9 out of 10 Champions League matches last season, I think they're poor, and they're missing Julian Alvarez here. They're looking like they'll go with Griezmann and then Simeone and Nico Gonzalez on the other side. So I don't know. That's not convincing enough for me to take the minus 130. Both teams to score, yes. But I do think ultimately Liverpool will win the game. And so if you pair Liverpool win with both teams to score, yes, it comes out plus 180, which is obviously a much bigger price than minus 130 and maybe worth taking the punt on. I've really struggled to find something here. I wanted to back Liverpool -1. It's 1.25 now because Alvarez is out. So yeah, I think I'm looking to take a punt on a big price here, and Liverpool to win and both teams to score, yes, is okay. I'm not convinced Atleti will score, but the stats suggest that they've got a pretty decent chance of scoring.
Yeah, I've got to say I'm really annoyed that Alvarez is injured because I think he's the player that would have given them the most trouble by far. Sherlock is a unit, but I think Van Dijk can deal with him. That's the sort of player that Van Dijk usually has no problems with. Griezmann, Adam Thompson's right there. He's 34 these days, but he is a quality player. He's got the playmaking ability, set pieces as well. That Atletico maybe could get some success. I think they'll score as well. I think that's probably the better bet of the game. At Liverpool winning over and both teams score, yes. Over 2.5 goals is at minus 162 now. It would be a small lean for me, just because I think generally Liverpool fixtures against anyone that, Burnley doesn't really count because Burnley just toothless, offering nothing. I think Atletico will offer something. What was it's an interesting comment that Simeone has been quoted as saying they need to win more group games rather than settle for draws. Well, to be fair, I think he's been going for the wins in the last couple of years more, which has been to their advantage at times, but also it's cost them some games. In terms of the splits for the money here, the bettors are all over Liverpool. 94% of the money, 97% of the tickets, 73% of the money on the over line here. In terms of a straight win on the money line at minus 205, would that be a good parlay piece for people?
Yeah. It's hard to see Liverpool not winning, but then, in previous seasons, they probably would have been a bigger price. And so, Atleti have still got something about them, right? They've still got Simeone in charge and they've got some quality in the squad. They are missing a few, though, not just Julian Alvarez. They're also missing big money signing over the summer, Bayern. And I think Bayern would be equally as influential and important in a game like this. But I don't know if I'd be taking that minus 205, but for a parlay, it's hard to see past them winning.
You mentioned Isak might well start this game. He's plus 138 to score any time. Mo Salah plus 135 to score any time. Someone was asking about whether that could be a bet or not. I think I read somewhere that Mo Salah has generated 0.04 XG this season. I'm not sure whether that is in terms of his assisting ability. Surely he's had a higher XG in terms of on the field. None penalty, that is. But he just doesn't. He hasn't looked sharp for me since February. He would not be a bet for me anywhere at the minute. Mo Salah. He's
I'm
a
not
fade.
sure. It's hard to disagree with that. There's something not quite the same about him. Whether that's just a short-term thing and we're kind of overanalyzing and knee-jerking, is Mo Salah at the end of the day. But the dynamic at Liverpool has changed a lot, right? There's been a lot of players leaving, like Diaz and Nunez both leaving. Those were, especially Diaz, obviously was a massive player for Liverpool last season. If you look at the underlying stats, Diaz was one of the best wing forwards in Europe, and I don't think it's to be underestimated. I think they'll take some time to really get into their groove, but and I'm sure Mo Salah will come good. Obviously, he's got the African Nations Cup to think about as well on the horizon. So, we'll see. If between those two, I'd definitely be with Salah rather than Isak, just because Isak probably only going to play 60 minutes because he's not full fitness yet. So, if
Nigel, I think, has put in comments here, does make a good point. Merseyside derby at the weekend, that is a big match for Liverpool. They're minus 245 to win that, incidentally, like I said. Do you ever factor that in when you're actually handicapping matches about the next match on the horizon rather than one previously? That it could be a potential distraction or not?
Yeah, for sure. Especially the Merseyside derby from Liverpool's perspective. And given they're on the minus 1.25 handicap, it's definitely a fact to consider. Will they kind of put subs on earlier than they otherwise would? Will they take their foot off the gas? Isak's probably only going to get 60 minutes if he does start. And the other thing that's kind of crazy is Liverpool are a similar price to beat Atleti here than they are to beat Everton on the weekend. The market is saying that Everton and Atleti, that there's not much between those two sides. And that's a bit of an eye-opener.
That's crazy. I mean, I know Everton are a much improved side this season. I know some of their fans are actually fancying getting something at Anfield. That just shows you how optimistic they are suddenly. But surely Atletico Madrid would be in the next level above Everton. But maybe that just shows you the strength of the Premier League. I don't know.
I mean, one thing's for sure, Jack Grealish would get in that Atleti team. So, and probably some other Everton players too. I think the Premier League is just so far ahead that all of a sudden we're comparing teams like Everton and Atleti. It's pretty insane.
Sac Melier, goalkeeping coach, says, afternoon, he's been on the train with Atletico fans on the way to Liverpool. What was the mood like on that train? Are they confident or not? We are going to move on to another Premier League team now. Bayern Munich against Chelsea. Bayern Munich minus 143, Chelsea plus 350. The tie is plus 310. There was quite a lot of love for Chelsea, actually, in the chat earlier, Will, when a lot saying there was a prize at the moneyline price here on the London outfit. Bayern Munich, I always enjoy talking with you about Bayern Munich because I know you normally have them rated really high. I know their underlying metrics are insanely good. I'm actually quite positive about them this season in the Champions League. I said yesterday that I think 12-1 would definitely interest me in them, because I believe come April, come May, they're going to have sewn up the Bundesliga so easily that they can focus entirely on this competition.
Yeah, I'm not so convinced, but at the same time, they're a bigger price than they normally are. So they are kind of tempting. I think they're lacking squad depth, though, which could be problematic if they lose an Olise or a Kane or they've already lost Musiala. But they're quite thin and they're defensively unconvincing. But then again, so are the World Club champions. Chelsea are not convincing defensively either. So I think when it comes to I think, yes, Bayern are definitely one to keep an eye on. And if they manage to stay injury-free, they've certainly got a shot. In terms of this game, I think Bayern will win, and I think both teams will score. And that's plus 188. So it's bigger than the Liverpool Atleti game, and I think this has got higher goal expectancy. And I really like that, actually. I think Bayern, you've got two very unconvincing defenses. And you've got a home team that won 4 out of 4 in the group stage at home last season, and normally in the group stage wins all of their home games. We did a stat on this on a previous season on Bayern's home form in the group stage in Champions League, and it was just unbelievable. So, it would be some performance from Chelsea to go there and get something, but at the same time, it's hard to see Chelsea not scoring. So you pair them together and you get a plus 188. I think that's attractive. And then Michael Olise to score or assist would be my player prop here, minus 109. And he averages almost a goal or assist a game since joining Bayern. So, and he's a player that I really like. I mean, it's no secret these days, right? But yeah, he's some player.
Rolls Royce player, genuinely superb. He's on all the set pieces, and he can get into some great spots to score goals as well. Absolutely no doubt about it. Simon King, Diaz has had a shot on target in the last 4 games he's played. And someone was mentioning earlier the position, of course, that the Bayern attackers are actually in, with Musiala being injured. You've got Gnabry playing sort of attacking midfield centre, I suppose is the best way of saying it. Obviously, Harry Kane's in there. And then, Nicholas Jackson is plus 140 to score here. He'll be on the bench. I presume Chelsea have done the right thing and allowed him to play against them. Or is he allowed? Well, I don't actually know. But if I was Chelsea, I would definitely want Jackson against me, the way he finishes chances.
Let's not talk about the 80 million, which he's probably not going to end up starting those games, is he? But 80 million is... I was for a club also. Bayern, evidently their management philosophies completely changing now moving forward. They've kind of admitted defeat, that they're not one of the top powers in terms of purchasing power in Europe, and they're going to look to kind of sell their best players for the right offer. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Olise go next summer, maybe to Liverpool, and then there'd be some powerhouse in Anfield. Mikhail
Munch says Luis Diaz 2+ shots on target at plus 225. That would be. Someone said it's also a bit like a Premier League game. Where would Bayern rank in the Premier League? If Bayern Munich came into the Premier League tomorrow, where would they rank, do you think, Will, for you? Third best. Straight off the bat, he knows his ratings, this lad. I'm intrigued. One thing that frightens me with Chelsea is I think they might be a team under this manager, and they kind of proved it at the Club World Cup, but it is a small sample size, that they might raise their game in individual matches sort of randomly a little bit, because of the manager. I do rate him from a tactical perspective, and I don't know, maybe some of the players are a little bit showboaty as well, like that. So they might be like, their base ranking might be pretty stable, like Premier League, but it might be bigger Euro games where you might have to give them a little bit of credit. Just a gut feeling for me. I'm going rather that than the numbers. So Chelsea always scare me. And I can see why some in chat were kind of looking at them and thinking, yeah, big price sort of thing. Got a message from producer John behind the scenes, actually, about the regulations here. And the players at another club may or may not field. They cannot face their parent sides. So I didn't actually check. I wasn't really that bothered if he could play or not anyway, Jackson. But yeah, they'll be disappointed there, Chelsea, that he can't face them, perhaps. I don't know. Sorry, Nicholas Jackson, but
also on Chelsea,
we can play. No, we can play, says John. I'm a mix up the rules. I need to check that. I'll check that before we go off air anyway. But he's only going to get, 10, 15 minutes tops anyway, isn't he?
Yeah, I don't think it's really that critical. But Chelsea actually have the highest XG created so far in the Premier League this season. So, I agree. Chelsea are a threat, and they do seem to get up for the big games, and they've got some real quality. But it's a big ask to go into Bayern and take any points away. And they are very, very vulnerable at the back. But yeah, definitely wouldn't write them off.
79% of the money is on Bayern Munich. 88% of the tickets are on the over market here. I didn't even look at the goal line for this game properly because I just didn't really fancy anything either way. I'd go over actually rather than under, but the goal line's about 3, I think. Yeah, 3.25. And an interesting stat here from producer Troy. The favourite has won each of Chelsea's last 8 Champions League matches. So that's quite an interesting stat. That would definitely support a Bayern angle. In the game, you like Bayern winning Elise to score or assist.
I like Bayern, Steve. Just sorry to correct you there. Bayern win and both teams to score, yes.
Sorry, that's it.
Plus 188. It's the Bayern straight win at minus 140 or whatever is not good enough for me. Because I do believe Chelsea will score here. So by adding that in, your price at least doubles, and I think that makes it a play from what wouldn't have been a straight play before.
Thanks so much to everyone who's watching live or on demand. 4 different formats you can watch here on X, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, and all the comments. There's so many coming in. I can't read them all out. But while you're all here, just like yesterday, Betting Weekly newsletter. I've got to give everyone a reminder for any new people who've come in chat. Do please sign up for free here. We've got the Betting Weekly Insider, which will come out on Friday afternoon into your inboxes. Totally free to sign up. We get picks from the soccer world, tennis, American sports, and a Ryder Cup special as well in this edition. You had a good winner on the newsletter last week, Will. About the only over that went out in the Premier League, wasn't it? Brighton against Bournemouth. So a good pick there, and looking forward to more selections on the Insider this weekend. So do sign up if you've not already done it. Final game, where we're rolling through these today, aren't we? PSG against Atalanta. The defending champions minus 240 to win this game. And I can tell you now, they'd be a lot shorter if they're at full strength. But they are not at full strength. They are going to be missing Dembele. They're going to be missing Desiree Doué. Kvaratskhelia is a doubt. There's injury to the defender. My mind's gone blank. He came up on the stretcher at the weekend. Geraldo is ruled out for this game as well. And it has been mentioned. James Easton was on about how this is actually quite a small squad. Will nevertheless, it will still be a good-looking 11 that takes to the field here against Atalanta, won't it?
Yeah, I don't know if I would agree that this is a small squad. Maybe that's kind of just because they don't tend to get that many injuries because they can rotate a lot in Ligue 1. But, even in the midfield, right, which is probably the weakest area in terms of depth, you've still got the subs, which would be Zaire Emery, Kangin Lee. Obviously, they've got Bradley Barcola as a kind of fourth man in forward positions, and then Ramos as well. I don't know. I think they've got depth, and I think it's going to be tested here. That is the storyline of this game for me, especially if Kvaratskhelia doesn't start, then they're missing their first choice front three. But then again, Atalanta are missing Ederson and Lookman, probably their 2 most important players. So a lot of attacking players missing there. Couldn't be backing overs, although normally we'd look at this game and we'd certainly be looking at overs. But I can't in this instance. But there is a bet I really like here, and it's Bradley Barcola. Like, he has to be the main man for PSG here, especially if Kvaratskhelia doesn't start. And he's minus 109 to score or assist. That's pretty big. He scored twice versus Lens at the weekend. He also scored against Toulouse in the previous match day. There were kind of rumours around him potentially getting a big offer from Liverpool over the summer or another English team. He chose to stay quite emphatically at PSG and fight for his place. And he is too good to be a bench warmer, and I think he's really going to be up for this. He's started the season on fire, and this Atalanta. I do like Atalanta as a team. I think they're another team that we could put into the underrated basket. But losing Ederson is a big deal for them. He kind of holds it all together in the midfield, and if PSG are going to blow them out here, it's going to be Barcola that's going to be the main threat. So from a scoring and assisting perspective, so Barcola -109. The other lines, I mean, given the team news, it would be intuitive to lean under, but again, PSG games and Atalanta games, actually, it's quite hard to pull the trigger on under. So I'd lean under still, given the players that are missing, but main bet definitely Barcola.
That does look, I've got to say, a really good looking bet. I opposed PSG at the weekend. They're the sort of team I'm looking to oppose quite a lot recently with these team news. +2 on Lons, and I thought Lons fully deserved to stay within that handicap. And it was one of those where Barcola's goals, I mean, I don't know what the combined XG was from them, probably less than 0.1. When the second goal went in, it was one of those, I don't usually lose my head too often, but I was fuming because I'm like, how can he score from there? He's very talented. He's so individual, and you got the assist option as well, of course, with the Barcola. So I think the PSG extra quality will get them over the line today. And let's be honest, if they were, Dembele were playing there at full strength, then the Asian handicap line would probably knocking on the door of -1.75, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It just simply would. Atalanta, the bet I like here, it's my second best bet of the day. And it is under 3 Asian goals at -104 with Bet Rivers. And like I said, I think PSG, they've got a big game at the weekend. Le Classique against Marseille. They might be looking ahead. And I'm not sure they've got that many goals in them at the minute. PSG without Dembele in the side. And I tell you one thing, Ivan Juric, the manager of Atalanta, I hate this hire. He is generally someone who will go very defensive as an underdog. Very pragmatic, boring, won't offer much. And despite him being in charge of quite a lot of talented offensive players here at Atalanta, I don't believe they will always achieve their potential under this manager, especially in a game like this. So I actually wouldn't be surprised if PSG win 2-0. It doesn't almost feel right with Atalanta involved, but I think Juric's approach will cost them here. I'm going to go 2-0 PSG and under 3 Asian goals for me at -104. I don't see there being 4 goals or more in this game.
Yeah, I think the 2-0 as a correct score sounds good. I think Atalanta, for me, I'm not sure if this is correct, but Atalanta definitely one of the teams that took the biggest downgrade over the summer for me, because Gasperini was just so influential there. And I think, like you, I don't really rate the new manager either. So maybe even as big a downgrade as Inter had with losing Inzaghi. So 2-0, yeah, that sounds like it's worth a bit of pizza money.
Yeah, it certainly does. 91% of the money and 90% of the tickets are on PSG for this game. 78% of the money is on the over. We've gone through all the games. Will, what would be your best bet today?
There's quite a few I like. I like the over in the early games. I like the over in Slavia Prague Bodo. As the chat's mentioned, Ho is starting, so that strengthens our position there, I think. As a long shot, I like Bayern win, both teams to score at +188. But I think I'd reserve, you see, it's difficult. I would reserve my best bet for Inter win if they get to -120. I will not be betting it at -140. But there's so many good bets today.
There is quite a lot of good ones there. I think the best bet for me is that over 2.5 goals in the Bodo Glimt game. Second best bet, PSG Atalanta under 3 Asian goals. And the third best bet for me is Inter on that money line. And if I had to have a player prop today, it is actually in this Glimt game. Jens Petter Hauge to score or assist at +250. But I think your prop's better in PSG. Barcola score or assist -109. That's too big a price for a player of his talent. And Kasper Ho does start for Bodo Glimt, thankfully. So my source up there was correct. So I'm not made to look too bad. But Will, great show. Great to have you back on the Champions League. And we're going to be having you for more match days. This is just the first match day. Another 7 more to come, plus the knockout rounds. It's just starting. The party's just starting.
Absolutely. Big fan of the new format, Steve. I think we called it early.
It is great. Oh, quick one. Barcelona at Newcastle. Is that a walk in the park at St. James's Park or not?
No way. No. I mean, the price is adjusted to Lamine being out, but I would have been on Newcastle plus a half if Lamine was playing. With Lamine out, now it's plus a quarter. Probably no bet there, but no way.
Yeah, I'm with you. We'll talk about that match tomorrow because Lewis Jones is going to be joining me on Betting Weekly Live, and we'll get that Newcastle PSG angle. And I say at this point in time, I don't like to bet against Newcastle at home in the Champions League very, very often. But we will wait and see tomorrow. Thank you so much, Will. Thank you, everyone who joined in live or on demand. Please do hit that like button. We got over 100 likes yesterday. See if we can do the same today. And if you are new to the channel, please consider subscribing to us. They all help us add up. Sign up to the newsletter. Best of luck with whatever you are taking today. Gamble responsibly. I'll see you next time on Betting Weekly Live.